Hi, everyone. My name is Al Schuster. I'm the president of Polaris Brand Promotions. Welcome to Brand Ambassador and Promotional Industry Update number 5. During our series of webinars, we want to help brand ambassadors, promotional staff, and other gig workers with information and resources as to what's going on out there in the world that's been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'd like to start off by introducing our wonderful panelists tonight. First off, we have Trevor Estelle, VP of Sales and Marketing for the TIPS program. Next up, we have Andie Halaburda of the U.S. Bartenders Guild Philadelphia chapter. Then we have Gus Calabrese, CEO and the events guy. And then we have Stephen Kirk, account executive for Skyline Philadelphia. So for those of us who haven't joined us before, what we'll do is we'll start off by asking some of our panelists some questions that are specific to their companies and their careers. And then we'll have some general roundtable style questions for everyone to answer. And then finally, we'll pick up with some questions from the Q&A. First of all, I'd like to start off by asking each one of our panelists to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about themselves, their company and industry, as well as how they've been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So Trevor, let's start off with you.
Thanks, Al. Also, thanks to Polaris Brand Promotions for hosting this event. Happy to be here. Yeah, my name is Trevor Estelle. I'm Vice President with Health Communications, Inc. Health Communications is the provider of the TIPS program. They do responsible alcohol server and seller training. I've been Vice President there for 16 years, actually 16 years 2 days ago. My responsibilities are primarily sales and marketing. So I'm out in the field working with sellers, servers, owners, operators, making sure that their staffs are properly trained, and if they have trainers on staff, making sure that they're getting all the necessary curriculum to train our program, as well as I manage the online aspect of what we do too. Alcohol server training, about 15 years ago, took the leap from just being in classroom training to also online training. That's a piece of the business that I manage as well. Real quick, regarding COVID and what's going on out there and how has it affected our business. We're a lot in the on-premise space, right, when we're training servers of alcohol, but we also have unique programs for other verticals, such as the off-premise market, like grocery stores, convenience stores, a very different type of alcohol sale. And that business is doing very well, the off-premise industry, where you have, the liquor stores and the package stores and the convenience stores. So that's kind of kept us afloat during this time, while the on-premise has come to, the training anyway, has come to a screeching halt. But we are responding to some of the things out there, and I hope to talk to you a little bit about that today.
All right. Thanks, Trevor. Next up, Andie, tell us about yourself.
Thanks for having me. I've been in the hospitality industry for a little 10 years in different capacities. Right now, I'm kind of doing 3 roles, so I have an interesting take on what's going on from a couple different sides. I'm a bartender at Alpen Rose in Center City. I'm also a brand ambassador in Philadelphia for Angels Envy, and I'm here to talk about the United States Bartenders Guild today and represent them. I serve on the board of directors for the Philadelphia chapter and serve as treasurer for our chapter as well. So the USBG, our purpose is to unite the hospitality community to advance professional bartending. We are a totally volunteer-run, nonprofit 501c6 organization. We're open to bartenders, servers, back of house, and just non-hospitality industry people as well. Anyone who cares about alcohol, serving it, drinking it, enjoying it. We're here to help educate you is one of our biggest things. So right now we are in about 50 cities across the United States. We're a national organization with individual chapters in these 50 cities. We've been around for about 60 years, and our chapter in Philly has about 140 members right now. So always growing, which is really great. So like I was saying, education is one of our biggest focuses in the organization. So we host monthly roundtables where liquor brands will come in and educate us on their products, do guided tastings, really just like personal in-depth trainings. We host bi-monthly blind tastings of different spirits categories. We do distillery trips, We also provide a lot of information, kind of exclusive information on cocktail competitions, trips. For example, I got sent to the Patron distillery in Mexico, all expenses paid, so we help facilitate all of those things. We also really focus on networking among our members with beer, wine, and liquor reps on a local and national level. We provide career opportunities, lots of great ways to find out about jobs, camaraderie, and kind of just access to brand-sponsored events that you might not otherwise know about. We do a lot of community building as well. So we have a greenhouse where we grow local herbs and vegetables that you can use in your bar program. We do a lot of volunteering and fundraisers. And then as far as the COVID-19 impact, I mean, we all know the negatives. Everyone's out of work. It's been very hard to get unemployment, especially for self-employed people. That's been a whole issue. Undocumented workers are being affected extremely negatively due to this. Conferences and meetings have been canceled, but I think there's been a lot of positives as well, and I'd like to focus on that. So our community has really been brought together, like just people reaching out, seeing like what people in our community need and helping us get there. There's been sponsored meals by different brands to make sure everybody has food on their tables. We were finding a lot of virtual solutions. We had our regional conferences on Zoom, which was great. And bartenders are really finding creative solutions to use their skills to make money online and just kind of like building their personal brand. Big focus on wellness and just, I think the most important thing is an increased accessibility to education. So we're open, anyone can join, but a lot of people don't join and don't know about our opportunities. So I think this has been a good way for us to like get the word out there.
All right, thanks, Andie. Gus, tell us about yourself.
All right, one more thing. Can I just say really quickly that USBG would like everyone to know that we do support the Black Lives Matters movement, and we support the protests and all of the work that's being done.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Gus, you're up.
Yeah, Al, thanks for having me on. I'm Gus Calabrese. I own a number of companies in the events world. My camera just cut off. I'm without power right now. I'm working on generator power, so all good. So I own a number of different companies. So a couple of years ago, I just had a website made, GusCalabrese.com, the events guy, just so I didn't have 10 different business cards I was handing out. But I own NetMixer.com, the ultimate networking event. I'm a partner in upcomingevents.com, owner of Conferences Connect with a Partner, and utilityevents.com. And I think I'm forgetting something. Mixit6.com is another company. I run these companies. The great thing is they're all in the events industry. The bad thing is they're all live events, in-person events, and none of them are doing live in-person events right now. We have pivoted to a virtual event model for utilityevents.com, which serves the utility industry worldwide. But revenue is down significantly in that company. It's been challenging through this whole thing. Yeah, that's where we stand. Well, I'll go through companies real quick. NetMixer.com is business networking events built on a national platform. UtilityEvents.com hosts events for the utility industry. It is owned by Conferences Connect. We have another company called AerospaceEvents.com. We do events for the aerospace industry too, similar fashion. We were typically doing live or in-person events, 12 a year, up to 80 people all over North America, with expansion plans for Germany this year. They've been put on hold, obviously. The ultimate networking event. Al, funny thing is, I think you did your last live event the same night I did my event. Our event was a huge success, and people were so excited. We had other bar owners in the room going like, yeah, guys, bring this to us. When can we do this? When can we do this? The Palm restaurant in Philly closed that morning, unrelated to the COVID. Actually, sort of related, because they didn't want their elderly people being exposed to it. It was March 11th, I believe, or March 10th. And March 11th, the Philadelphia market shut down the next day. So it's an interesting thing. Or you did your event at Hard Rock, I believe, that night, right? Yeah, were you there?
No, we were at the City Winery, I think it was.
City Winery, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I have a sister company called Polaris Networking Events. What can I say? I like the name. So we host networking events as well around the Philadelphia area. And Gus and his partner Tom had their own event the same night that we had our own event. And basically a few days later, just the event industry just shut down. So
yeah. So my partner, we've had an event company since 2009, and we had at one point we were doing 30 events a year up and down the East Coast. Tom was sick for a couple of years, so we took off, and then we restarted the event company this year, or back in October of 2019, and was really exploding again. It was coming back alive. And then I'm partners in upcomingevents.com, which does beer festivals, wine events, very large people events. I mean, some of these events are up to 7,500 people, and that company is on lockdown right now. I'll throw it back to you, Al. Thanks.
all right, thanks, Gus. Steven, you're up. Tell us about yourself.
Al, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Steven Kirk. I work for Skyline Exhibits. I've been in the trade show industry for over 20 years, probably pushing 25 at this point. Skyline is a full-service exhibit house. We specialize in the design, fabrication, and management of trade show and event exhibits. We have our manufacturing hubs in Minnesota. We have several depots throughout the company that support storage, rental solutions, graphic manufacturing, and trade show floor services. So we handle shows all over the country in the world. I'm located right outside of Philadelphia at a showroom. And we've got offices, probably 70 offices just like mine, primarily sales and marketing. COVID-19 has completely shuttered our industry. Devastating. As you can imagine, there's no face-to-face events going around right now. What Skyline has done and what I have done, we've begun to reinvent ourselves, reinvent solutions for our customers. I've had a lot of clients come to me and just concerned and scared. They're used to obtaining leads and opportunities on the trade show floor and a variety of face-to-face events. So we have pivoted, obviously, to the virtual platform. We've partnered with a company called Metro Connections. We've had this relationship actually for about 20 years now, and they're helping us create virtual platforms for our clients. So whether it's a virtual trade show that people have to go with a virtual exhibit with hotspots, or if it's internal, external marketing just to get the word out and try to get some opportunities going, we're doing more and more of that for my clients. So that's kind of where we are. We're hoping things turn in the fall, but it's questionable at this point. And I guess we'll chat more about that later in the call.
All right. Thanks, Stephen. And thank you to all of our panelists for joining us tonight. All right, let's start off with some questions for our panelists directly related to their industries and how they're being impacted. Andie, I'm going to start off with you. I've got a couple of questions for you. Obviously, being with the United States Bartenders Guild, especially the Philadelphia chapter, you've kind of got your finger to the pulse of the bar and restaurant industry and how bartenders and other hospitality workers are working or dealing with this, and how they're adapting to it and pivoting. I want to hear from you what you've heard from them, as well as maybe any owners or managers as to how restaurants and bars and whatever are preparing to reopen, and any adjustments they might be looking to make.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone kind of transitioned to takeout food pretty readily, but the big thing that everyone was fighting for a long time was to-go cocktails, and fighting with the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board and the government and everything to get that all set was a huge, huge win that we finally got that going. It is unfortunate that it took so long because bigger markets like New York had been doing it from the get-go. But it's a very big win for a lot of brand ambassadors that it's going to put people back to work just having to-go cocktails. Bartenders, brand ambassadors, managers, a lot of people, that was a great help. Other than that, there's just been a lot of back and forth and misinformation about how the reopening in Philadelphia is going to go. So everyone's really excited about yellow phase that's supposed to be starting in a couple days, according to Governor Wolf. So with yellow phase, restaurants would be allowed to open for outdoor seating with limitations, tables 6 feet apart, throwaway menus, and as much disposable things as possible, which is another conversation about waste and sustainability that I don't even want to get into right now. But if anyone's been watching our local news, Mayor Kenny came back and said that everyone needs to like pump the brakes, because that's not exactly the case for Philadelphia. Just because the governor is putting us in yellow phase does not mean that the mayor is going to be allowing us to open for outdoor service. And there's a lot of other things that go along with that people may not realize. So there's a lot of ADA, American Disability Act restrictions about where you can place tables outside, and Philadelphia streets are tiny, sidewalks are tiny, and I would say most restaurants don't have the space to allow for that. I was reading a new act today. I don't have an exact source on it, but I was reading that restaurants are going to be able to apply for outdoor alcohol service that they may have not been allowed to do previously. They're going to waive the $220 fee, and you'll get approved immediately. Now, this does not say anything about adding extra tables. So again, with ADA and safety regulations, I don't think they're going to be allowing people to just like put tables all over the sidewalk and block things. So I think we definitely need some more information on that, but it could be a step in the right direction. But I think a lot of people are saying that a good option would be during this time to shut down a lot of the streets in Center City for traffic and just allow them for pedestrians, and allow restaurants to put tables out into these closed down streets, keep everything super spaced out. So I think that could be one option, but it's not really in the talks of government that I know of. But honestly, everything that I'm hearing is that it's too soon. I'm hearing this from a lot of bartenders, servers, kind of like line level staff. I can't speak for undocumented workers. I'm sure they're much more eager to get back to work because they're not getting any help from the government right now, which is absolutely terrible. But at this time, a lot of people do think that, do you want to go to a restaurant where your bartender, your server is wearing masks and gloves and you can't really interact, and you're sitting down at a fine dining service and like throwing away your paper menu? Do restaurants really want to be able to open at half capacity and still have to like pay all the bills, pay all the employees? Kind of not really. Every situation's different, but at this point, the majority of what I'm hearing is under these regulations, it would be too soon for us to reasonably reopen.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
And I know that the U.S. Bartenders Guild has been doing quite a bit to help out a lot of the bartenders and other individuals in the restaurant and hospitality industry during this difficult time. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for our chapter, personally, in mid-March, shortly after the shutdown, we were able to make a contribution to BEEP and CORE. So CORE is the Children of Restaurant Employee Fund. It's normally used for restaurant employees if their kids don't have health insurance, or medical emergencies, emergency babysitting, kind of things like that. So we made a large donation to them. We also made a large donation to BEEP, which is under the USBG's National Charity Foundation. It's the Bartender Emergency Assistance Program. Just again, for just like out of the norm things, which this is definitely one. So because that is a bona fide charity, 501c3, that is not limited to membership in the USBG, anyone can apply for a BEEP grant. There were so many applications. So grants are currently being limited to around $500 per person, and they're taking a little bit of time just because there's been such an interest across the country in it. but we have a volunteer workforce of people on board of directors throughout the country in different chapters who are just vetting these applications, making sure like anyone who we can help, we are helping. So financially, that's what we're doing right now. Other than that, we are just providing continued networking, social, any kind of support that we can do. We're still hosting our monthly meetings on Zoom. Last month, we just did our blind mezcal tasting, which we would normally host at a local bar and have like snacks and everyone come together, and we'll do like a blind tasting of about 9 different spirits in the category, learn about them as we go, find out what they are afterwards, take tasting notes. So we were able to get samples from different liquor reps and brand ambassadors and bottle them up individually and disperse them to our members and hosted a little blind tasting online. So just like keeping everyone really on top of like staying on our education, making sure we're keeping our minds sharp and being on the ball about it.
All right, thank you. Next up, Gus. Now, I have known you for years, and I didn't even know half of the event businesses that you were involved with before I had you join as one of our panelists. I want to hear from you what you're hearing from the industry, whether it be venues or exhibitors or anyone, you know, in the event spaces that you handle, as to where they stand with returning to operations.
Okay. So let me first by saying, Ashley had run in behind us. The second wave of the storm, we're out near King of Prussia Bowl. The second wave of the storm is coming through. It looks like fireworks going off. So I muted myself while Andie was talking. So we work with utility industry and the primary company. I'll come from that perspective. Some of these are Fortune 100 companies. They're very large. Some of them have their own corporate jet. In fact, one of our clients is in charge of corporate jets. They travel a lot. I think that company has 6 private jets. Anyway, as far as the events industry goes, they have restricted. Most of them have restricted travel for the remainder of 2020. We did have a few people in the middle of the country. The middle of the country doesn't seem to be getting as hard as both coasts are asking us, hey, when are you doing events again? When are you doing events again? From the industry itself, I am involved with a lot of international organizations. I sit on a lot of Zoom calls trying to figure out this puzzle for the last 3 months of how we're going to do events, how we're going to serve our clients. The casino industry has spelled it out. They have a number of different events guidelines where you would have 10 people sitting at a banquet table. You might have 3. Where they had buffets are going to be a thing of the past. It's going to be like smoking in restaurants. It's just not going to happen anymore. Most of the food is going to have to be prepared, pre-boxed. All condiments will be individual service. The casino industry itself is not opening up any of the bars or clubs. The restaurants are at 30 to 50% capacity, depending on what city they're in. Hotel rooms will be not cleaned every day. Staff will be changing their equipment and their gloves and everything else. The craziest thing I heard, the craziest I didn't even think about, when the staff has done their shift, the cleaning services, they have to wipe down all and sanitize all their equipment for the next service staff to come in and do that. From the travel side of things, we've all seen what's going on with the airlines. I hear a number of stories of there were 3 people on my plane, and then I see other stories where the plane's completely full. They're telling us a 4-hour check-in process. Allow yourself 4 hours to get to the airport. If you're local in Philadelphia or where your local hometown, they're asking you to have somebody from your family drive you to the airport. When you get to the destination you're going to, they suggest renting a car from a reliable rental car company. Some company or some states are not allowing Uber or Lyft to operate right now under COVID-19. So that's some of the things we're hearing about. Obviously, the 6-foot social distancing across everything from virtual check-in in hotels, virtual keys at hotels, things like that. And obviously the restaurants, similar to what Andie was saying, the restaurants are being in the same position. We don't know there's one event that's supposed to happen in Florida next month from the inside industry. That's the only one I've heard of so far, as a trade show sort of thing. I'll switch over to sponsorship. I've been selling sponsorships for a really long time. I've been in the event industry. I think my first event was when I was 14 years old. I ran ski trips because I wanted to ski for free. My parents weren't driving me to the mountains. So I'd get 2 busloads of kids and we'd go up to the mountain. Some of you are old enough to remember the ditto machines or the Xerox copiers. I would steal time in the school to copy off flyers and post them around school. And it wasn't that much different just before Facebook. We were doing the same thing in Philly. We were handing out flyers in the old city to drive.
You're aging us, Gus.
I know, but we did it. we did it. So anyway, when it comes to sponsorships, we ask what does the sponsor want? Now the trade show, Steve's going to talk about the trade show industry a little bit, but now that the trade show booth is not there, why did this sponsor really go to the trade show anyway? Well, hopefully it's to talk about the products and designs and to get more clients. We have actually helped our clients by hosting virtual events. We call it problem solved, where we take a case study from one of our utility companies and we take their solutions provider, and let them talk together for an hour, and provides them, everybody who registers for the event for free becomes a lead for the sponsor. And that's how we are helping in the short term. And believe me, there's nobody that wants to get back on a plane faster than I do. We were on the road last year 120 nights. I own the company. We do it by design. We love to travel. So it's part of the game. Being locked down for 3 months, I think it's the longest I've not been someplace since I was 4 or 5 years old. It's nuts. But anyway, that's what we're doing for our sponsors, and we're still providing for our normal attendees. We're still providing quality virtual content that they can relate to. A lot of our attendees that come to our events are required to continuous education, and by hosting one credit of continuing education is 10 hours of training. So if we do a 2.5 hour event, we can give them a quarter credit, and it adds up over time. So anyway, that's where we stand with our events that we're doing right now from the utility side. So back to you, Al.
Thanks, Gus. All right, Steve. So I know Skyline operates across the country with trade shows and exhibits and conventions. Want to hear from you what you're hearing from some of your clients and other people in the industry as to how they feel about participating in trade shows and in conventions in the new normal.
Yeah, I think the new normal, I think uncertainty is one word that comes to mind. I think there's so many companies that realize the value of trade shows, and they're itching to get back into the norm. But the uncertainty, companies are concerned about their staff members. They're concerned about where they're going. You know, as shows start to open up, and again, the fall is questionable right now. And you know, Gus had mentioned Las Vegas. What's interesting about Las Vegas is they're opening up casinos, hotels, but they're not addressing conventions. So you know, the old notion, you know, open it up and people will come. I don't know about that, because people want to be convinced their staff members are going to be safe. So on a positive note, there's a new certification now called the GBAC. It's Global Biorisk Advisory Council. So what they're trying to do is bring this into the event arena and have this be a new certification for trade show events. So for example, if you're going to Vegas and you're going to the convention center, if it's certified, if it's a GBAC certified facility, it's going to give the exhibitors some confidence that their staff is going to be safe. That all being said, my clients still value the face-to-face. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like a face-to-face encounter. What I see happening, what I hear is going to happen is less staff are going to go. And I think the new norm, I think we're going to be dovetailing the virtual platform with the face-to-face. And I kind of touched on the virtual platform initially, from a virtual exhibit to a virtual meeting. I think you're going to see more pre-show, post-show, and even at-show vertical solutions with the face-to-face. And that's not a bad thing, because now we talk about analytics. You know, the number one question when you go to a trade show and you come back and the CEO says, okay, so how did you do? And why did we go? And what did we get out of it? That's the $10,000 question, analytics. So I think the new norm is going to be interesting, because I think a lot of those analytics are going to be gleaned with the virtual platform tied in with a face-to-face. But like I said in the beginning of my comments, uncertainty is rampant. You know, there's no shows. You know, I had, there's 3 or 4 shows my clients were going to in the fall. They were postponed from February, March, and now they're postponed into 2021. So we're quickly seeing the fall is not going to be back to business as usual, or the savior, just by washing your hands and staying 6 feet apart. I think along with the certification, you're also going to find the trade show floor is going to be completely different. You're going to have one-way venues. Your booth space are going to be bigger. Again, less staff. And I think the attendees are going to be staggered. You're not going to have as many folks going onto the trade show floor at one time. So this is all being discussed in the industry. We want to have companies feel safe coming to these venues, and you know, the venue won't happen if exhibitors don't come. So they're going to have to give my clients some comfort that it will be safe for the staff, and that there are things in place that can assure them it's a safe environment. So it's a whole new world. We're, you know, every week, every day, every week, every month, something new comes up, and we're learning as we go. And, you know, we're hoping that things, you know, shake out, and, you know, we can get back to business, because I'll tell you, people are starving for face-to-face. I think the virtual is it's bridging the gap. It's okay. I've had a lot of success with it, but people are starving for face-to-face. So stay tuned. We keep working through it.
I think we all are. Thank you very much, Steve. And next up, Trevor. First of all, I got to say, huge fan of the TIPS program here. I actually got recently recertified as a TIPS classroom trainer. You're talking earlier about the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. They don't allow classroom training for TIPS trainers. Not a biggest fan of them. Don't care if they're watching. So on a serious note, you know, I wanted to hear from you, you know, with all these things such as alcoholic beverage delivery and to-go cocktails, want to hear about what some of the things that the TIPS program is doing to kind of address these changes in the industry.
Yeah, and Al, thanks for renewing your trainer certification. We appreciate that. You actually got to renew your trainer certification through one of our remote Train the Trainer workshops, which, by the way, never existed before COVID-19. It was all of our Train the Trainer workshops. They were 2 days in length, and they were done at different venues across the globe. And so you got to experience that firsthand with Larry Moore. So I'm glad you were able to experience that.
Larry's a great guy.
He is. He's awesome. So yeah, I mean, with COVID, with the introduction of COVID-19, and I alluded to it previously, our on-premise training, which is specifically on-premise licensees, bars, restaurants, anywhere where alcohol is sold and consumed on the premise, that business came to a screeching halt from a training standpoint. As a life preserver, a lot of the governors and states throughout because they were in a state of emergency throughout executive orders that altered local alcohol laws and regulations. And the big one, of course, is alcohol to go and alcohol delivery. 34 states in all actually relaxed their regulations in some form or fashion. And actually, alcohol delivery has always been around. It's not something new, but it kind of moved that along very quickly with the executive orders. So with that, we had already been previously developing an responsible alcohol delivery program. We hadn't given much thought to cocktails on the go, so we added that and also added a health and safety aspect to it as well. And there's a lot of things going on when this happened too. In California, the California ABC, they had time in April to do some stings. They did 200 stings looking at alcohol delivery specifically. And out of those 200 stings, 80% of the alcohol delivery found itself in the hands of underage. 80%. And that was mostly third-party delivery companies that really there was a disconnect between the third-party alcohol delivery company and the actual licensee themselves. And I'm talking about, on-premise licensees, not off-premise licensees. And there's training that needs to take place in that to make sure that there is a communication that's taking place. So as a result of a lot of feedback and a big push, last month we launched a responsible alcohol delivery program that's really designed for the on-premise industry that's just getting into the delivery and carry out part of their business, but it's also meant for the third-party delivery companies themselves. In our experience in training for 16 years, most of the people we're talking to and dealing with the licensees, they want to do the right thing. They want to sell their product, and that's great, but they want to do the right thing as well. And it's just a matter of having that training in place. From the delivery transaction is such a different transaction than what they're used to, that the program's been very well received in its initial launch. So we're really happy with it. It's just gone out. We've got some third-party delivery companies using it, and a lot of on-premise sales as well as off-premise sales that are doing carry-out delivery are using it as well. So it's been well received.
All right, wonderful to hear. All right, so next part, we are going to have a little bit of a kind of a roundtable discussion where we ask each of our panelists a specific question. Each of them will have their own opportunity to answer from their own experience and background. So first question up, and by the way, before I get started, there's still plenty of time if you have any questions that you'd like to ask our panelists, toss them in the Zoom chat or in the Facebook chat for those who are following us live. All right, so first question. What advice and guidance would you give right now to brand ambassadors, to event workers, as well as to any gig workers? Gus, let's start with you.
I would, for the gig workers, the economy has changed. I think Instacart is a great option right now for those people. If you feel safe, if you're under a certain age, if you don't have the health risk, there's the whole food industry has shifted, and they can't keep food on the shelves enough at some of these stores. And the Instacart people are making a killing. They're one of the things that are working. For the brand ambassadors, be unique, create storytelling via video and live chats and things like that. I know it can be uncomfortable for some people, even standing in front of somebody and pouring drinks and stuff like that. I was a bartender for many, many, many years. Not everybody can interact with the public. But if you were doing brand ambassador work, putting a video on and doing that is not a whole lot different. So I would suggest doing, I think Andie was talking about, she's doing this, the virtual sampling of products or showing people how to best use their products, bringing in maybe food, wine pairings, things like that. And looking for those gigs, looking for those jobs. I mean, it's a new world out there. I don't know what you're doing, Al. I know you were doing this sampling. I miss it. I miss sampling at Trader Joe's. I miss salad bars. They're not going to happen anymore. But you're going to have to figure out a new way to solve an old problem. So I'm getting people to sample or try your product in person.
Exactly. All right, Trevor, your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, my advice would, be relevant. There's a host of new opportunities that now exist that really didn't previously exist. And I think I was reading, it was McDonald's now has an employee that's dedicated to the health and safety, social distancing, making sure that they're following the CDC guidelines. I mean, what an interesting job creation, right? I mean, this is something that never existed pre-COVID-19 world. So being relevant, you know, it's the industry, and I was behind the bar for years. My heart goes out to the industry. They've been hit hard. My best advice for them is not only be relevant, but also be prepared. The job, it's going to open again. It really will. It might not look exactly like it did pre-COVID-19, but it's going to open again. So making sure not only that you're relevant, but be prepared. I mean, make sure you're networking, staying out there networking, staying on top of it with what other means you can do it. Make sure that you have your certifications in place so that you're, you know, your resume building and that you're going to look relevant to the employees when they do start opening out. This is short term. I believe it, really believe it is. I think the post-COVID world is going to be a lot different, and it's going to create some new opportunities. So my two best pieces of advice are be relevant, be prepared, and make sure that you continue networking out there.
All right, thanks. Andie, your thoughts?
I would say my biggest piece of advice would be start doing what I wish I had started when I was much younger. Use this time to build your network, build your personal brand, and get your name out there. I know for a lot of us, myself included, when we work face-to-face every day and we're used to like talking to people and interacting with people and going off of body language and things, it's hard to like look at yourself on video or post a photo of a cocktail you made or a photo of yourself making cocktails or a video, and just to see it out there can be like a little daunting. You know, hearing your own voice on the internet is always weird, but do the thing, make the videos, make the cocktail videos, find your niche. For example, my thing is gardening, so I always like take photos of my houseplants or like weird vegetables that I'm making into cocktails and post it out there. Find your thing and make your name for yourself, so that when this is all over, I think jobs are going to be a little more competitive to come by, we'll say. So build your brand, build your network, and just keep practicing too. Do R&D at home, practice your spiels, practice, you know, talking in the mirror, recording yourself, giving a staff tasting or a consumer tasting. And I think it's also important that we start looking at the practices going on in Pennsylvania, going on with the PLCB and the government and the ways that they affect us, and coming up with effective change that we can start petitioning our government for.
Excellent point. Excellent point. All right. So, Stephen, your thoughts?
I think just know that this will end. Things might be a little bit different on the backside, but this will end. And use this as an opportunity. Reinvent yourself. Take this opportunity, this time that we have, and reinvent yourself. Get uncomfortable. Do something different. I'm in the face-to-face business, and I'm doing virtual platforms. Talk about being uncomfortable. So every day I'm uncomfortable, and I'm learning. And you know, just my advice is just stay the course and be a steward of education. Listen, learn, and don't be afraid of doing something new. Don't be afraid of being uncomfortable. You'll grow, and this will end. And what I think what we will have all learned in this period is going to help us on the backside. Business will be different, but we'll be different. We'll have more knowledge and more ability to survive this. So create your own opportunities, and we'll all meet on the backside of this and compare notes.
Great way to look at it. All right, so next question up before we get to the Q&A. And I'm going to start off by saying I know a lot of you have already addressed this in different ways, so I just want to give you an opportunity to add any additional thoughts you have. What do you see as being the new normal for the event industry for both public and private events? We're going to go opposite direction this time. Stephen, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier. I think with my industry, I think the face-to-face is here to stay, but I think there's going to be less staff members going, and I think the virtual platform is going to be a good dovetail, a good addition to the face-to-face from an analytical standpoint, and also a cost standpoint and efficiency standpoint. So now instead of having 15 people out of the office, you have 5 people out of the office. So I think that's going to be the new norm, and I think it's an exciting norm. So I think that's where I see things going.
All right, Andie, your thoughts?
Yeah, so as far as for people who work directly for liquor brands, I think we should be prepared to move to more consumer-based KPIs as opposed to industry-based KPIs. I think there's going to be a lot more focus on off-premise sales compared to on-premise sales. That's where the trends are at right now. So we should be preparing to teach consumers about how to make cocktails at home with our products to do for dinner party pairings. People are still going to be staying in a lot, I think. As far as bars and restaurants, I think the new normal is going to be whatever the consumers with power want it to be. We saw it in Harrisburg. We saw the protests, and we saw the governor take those protests into account and move us along into yellow phase much quicker than he had originally intended due to that pressure. So I think we need to look at what the people spending the money are going to want. Do they want to come into restaurants and have more space and not have their table 2 feet away from another table? Are they going to want to come in and see other people wearing masks and see more disposable plateware and menus and things? Or are they going to want things to go like right back to normal and act like it never happened? I think it's going to depend a lot on that, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. And Trevor, your thoughts?
Yeah, the new normal. I think there's the short-term new normal, and then there's the long-term new normal. I also think it's interesting what the normal looks like from a geographical standpoint. I think the normal, for example, in New York is probably going to be a little bit different than the normal in, say, Myrtle Beach. Just by virtue of having traveled there in the last 2 months, it's a different world compared to what New York is. In New York, when we're talking about training, when I'm talking about tips, the common question I get now is, well, what if someone comes in, presents their ID, and they have a mask on? How do I handle that sale? Do I make them take off their mask? And you have to make sure that you're selling to the person that's on that ID that's of age. How do you handle that? And there is a way to handle it. They got to be 6 feet away. We're practicing social distancing. Have them take the mask off and make sure that it is the person in the ID. You're seeing that in perhaps the off-premise establishments or stores, I should say, in New York and maybe much of the Northeast. But I had the same experience down in North Carolina. I didn't see anybody wearing masks when they went to the liquor store. So I think the new normal is a little bit different from geographical location to location, which is kind of interesting. I think we'll all get to the same path in the long term. And I think it'll be we're going to be a more health and safety conscious path. I think there's going to be policies and procedures that are in place that weren't previously in place for operators and for owners and managers. What those are going to look like, whether they follow the CDC guidelines or what their industry trade show guidelines, that's still to be determined. It seems like they're changing every day, and sometimes they don't really aren't saying the same thing, like what the governor of the state's saying compared to what the president's saying compared to what the CDC's saying. Sometimes those are 3 different things, right? We all see it and recognize the hypocrisy of it. So, and that's the short term, I guess, growing pains with it. But in the long term, I think we will get to that normalcy that we're used to. There's just going to be new policies and parameters in place when we get there.
All right, thank you. And Gus?
So I think we have to look to the past to predict the future. I'm sure we're getting feedback here. 9/11. Anybody who was in the business world of 9/11, and I'm sure some of us here were, that was a game changer. We got through it. Smoking in bars was a big one. If you were in the bar industry, smokers tipped way higher than the non-smoking. You always wanted to work in the smoking department or a bar that had smoking. Many people thought it would be the end of the bar industry if you were no longer allowed to smoke. Well, those smokers stayed away for about 10 days. And they're like, hey, I can smoke outside. It's all good. So and to Trevor's point, different parts of the world, I do business with a lot of people in Florida. It's business as normal there right now. They've been open for 4-6 weeks. Every day I follow the COVID tracking numbers. They're not going up in Florida. They're staying. They've been lower than Pennsylvania the entire time, and they're going down. They're predicting They're predicting this thing almost being gone by August. Now, what happens when we get back in September? Who knows? We also have the possibility of similar to the AIDS virus. We will be able to treat this better in the very near future if we don't get a vaccine. We get a vaccine and everybody decides to get the vaccine and it's all good. This time next year, I look forward to the day where we're laughing about this time in our lives. I don't know we'll be laughing, but I look forward like, oh my God, remember how bad we thought it was? You know, and look how good things are now. I really think that's going to happen. I heard some numbers this week. Income is up 10.9% due to the government stimulus packages. Spending is down over 13%, and savings is up over 24%. It tells me people are sitting on money. And the American people do not like to sit on money. They get a couple extra bucks, they're going to spend it. You know, hopefully if our restaurants, bars, clubs, the events space becomes available, they'll be spending it with us because, like Steven said, we do want to be in person. Nothing substitutes for getting business done in person. So I'm going to add one other thing. I completely forgot about this. I started a new business last week to sort of help give back, and Andie touched on it. I started a t-shirt company. I was in the t-shirt industry years ago. I started a new t-shirt design company, Survivors of COVID-19, and we're donating part of the profits back to the Restaurant Employee Relief Fund. I completely, until Andie said it, I was like, oh, that's not really relevant to this. And then you mentioned you're doing that. Like, oh, wow, it's totally relevant. So I'll post the link if anybody's interested, and even if you just want to donate directly to the fund from there, it's available to do that. So, and thanks again, Al. This has been fun.
Thank you, Gus. And yeah, please do post the link. I also put a link to the GBAC in both the Zoom and Facebook chats. So you can catch that link there. So we had one question come in through the chat from Bryant. He asks, is there any way bartenders and servers can get an affiliate program with brands and or reps so if they sell the product, they will get a percentage of the transaction? I want to throw my thoughts in, and I figured we'd give Andie a chance to respond because she's probably the most experienced in this kind of realm. The first two thoughts I have are, number one, if you are a bartender or server and you have a chance to talk with any of the sales reps, you know, ask them directly what opportunities they may have available. The second is, I know being a brand ambassador for an agency such as ours, that, you know, occasionally we do have clients who will offer a per bottle commission during your in-store tasting events. They may offer you a flat rate plus $2, $5, whatever per bottle you've sold. Now, obviously that depends upon the client and the agency. But those are my two thoughts as to, you know, ways you as a bartender or server could, you know, potentially make some money by helping out brands. Andie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I don't know any specific brands that work kind of like that. In my role, it's kind of like you're hired to work for that one brand. You have a non-compete clause and you work specifically for that brand. I would recommend joining USBG. We have a ton of liquor reps and brand ambassadors and people with those kinds of resources that you can network with really easily. Join our Facebook page, but go to usbg.org/join and join the organization as well. There's just so many opportunities, even just on the website alone. It will connect you with liquor brands nationally and internationally. But really just the best way to get brand work is to just put yourself out there and network, you know, do cocktail competitions, write essays for these trips that they're sending people to Kentucky and to Mexico to different distilleries. And just really, like, while you're there, spend time talking to the person conducting the trip, to the hosts. A lot of times, like the Wild Turkey trip, like, you get to meet the whole family, like talk to them, embrace, like ask questions, and you know, stay in the back of people's minds, and when opportunities arise, like they will call you.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else have any other thoughts on that question?
I'll add in, it's a great Steven said staying relevant, doing new things. Hey, create a new market. Go out there, just keep telling people what you want to do, how you want to do this. Somebody will buy into your idea. I mean, it's just a matter of keep pushing forward. I had my I used to be I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I had car lots at one time. So you need this thing called garage keeper's liability insurance. This was before computers and the internet. You had to fill out a 26 to 52 page application at an insurance company to get this. I filled it out 25 times and was told you're not accepted. 26th time I was accepted. If you want it bad enough, people will, someone will believe in you. So, and you need that spirit. And most entrepreneurs I know, and most successful people I know, spent time behind the bar at some point in life, because the reward for the work you do is greater on many levels. It doesn't feel like you're working. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I agree. I can count on more than one hand the amount of people that I know that have a job that wasn't a job before they made it one. Know what you can do, find the right people to talk to and explain to them why you need to do this job in this market, why it matters, know your stuff. If you're looking at a certain brand or type of brand, you don't have to be the most knowledgeable about that specific product at the time of interviewing. They will train you on what they want you to know about that product, but know your market, show that you have a huge network and that you can make a big impact, and tell them why they need to give you a job that doesn't exist.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you to all of our panelists. We're just about to wrap it up. What I'd like to do is have each of our panelists give us their final thoughts, anything else they want to add or say to just summarize everything that we've discussed tonight. Gus, let's start with you.
All right. Thank you, Al. I'll just say this will end. We will get through this. It might not be how you expect. Just hang in there. Do what you can.
Thanks, Gus. Trevor, how about you?
Echoing kind of what Gus said, it's we will get past this, and in times like this, there's opportunity, and I know it's kind of hard when you're out there and you're searching for a job, you just lost your job, and someone's telling you there's opportunity. I don't know, sometimes it makes me, there's opportunity out there, it just needs to be found. And this is going to create a whole bunch of new opportunities for folks in hospitality and elsewhere. It's going to be the first to get that, who has that creative idea and brings it out there. Bars are going to open again. People need the networking more than anything. They need to be socializing. They need to be have that social lubricant when they're going out and making sure that they're having those conversations within their communities and everything else. It's so sadly missed right now, and the suicide rates that you're seeing out there and everything else kind of reveal that, and that there's a lot of depression, a lot of drinking alone at home, and we need to open it up. And if Miami, New York, Miami and the South are able to be a little bit more liberal on how they're opening up things, it's coming our way. So hopefully we get to normalcy soon. So Al, I want to thank Polaris for hosting this. I enjoyed hearing everybody's thoughts on tonight's topic. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Trevor. Andie, final thoughts.
Yeah, I would say just try to stay as mentally healthy as you can. Check in with yourself every day. For me personally, that means staying as busy as I can and just like filling up my day with exercise and gardening and like always having projects going. But for some people, staying mentally healthy is doing nothing and taking a break, and that's fine too, or seeking therapy or whatever you need to do, because this is definitely tough and challenging. So just making sure you're healthy, checking in with your friends and making sure that they're doing okay. And if you are in the capacity to help the situation in any way, financially, or just offering advising on a project or whatever you can do, if you're able to, then just try to help others.
All right, thanks, Andie. Steven, final thoughts.
I think it's pretty much the same the rest of the folks had mentioned. You have to stay engaged. You have to stay the course and try to turn this into an opportunity. Sometimes that's easier said than done, I know. But, you know, uncomfortable, like I said earlier, is not necessarily a bad thing in terms of trying to reinvent yourself or do something different. I think what Andie says is very important. You do need to stay engaged. You need to talk. We're relationship creatures, right? So we want to have that connection, and it's so easy not to have it right now. So I think you just have to learn, read, and listen, and just keep pushing forward, and know that this will end. And the backside will look a little different, but this will end, and we'll get through this. But Al, again, I'd like to thank you again for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us, Stephen. And my final thoughts, and to everyone who's heard these before, these should come as no surprise. As I always tell anyone who's watching in the brand ambassador or event space, this is not a personal thing. This is not a neighborhood thing or an area thing. This is a global thing. We are all going through this COVID-19 pandemic together. We are all being impacted. People who we know and love are being impacted. To something I'll say I haven't mentioned before, to follow up on what Trevor, Andie, and several other panelists have kind of noted, is that, you know, mental health is important. Not only take care of yourself and improve yourself right now, but look out for the people in your life. Keep in touch with everyone. Not to get too personal, I had a friend of mine take her own life around 2.5 months ago. And, I don't know exactly why it was related to COVID or not, probably never will. And, it never hurts to, scroll through all the contacts in your phone, people you haven't talked to, or whatnot, and say, hey, how are you doing? How are you holding up? That one little bit of effort might be the thing that makes a difference. So, we are all going to get through this. Just work on yourselves, help each other out. And, hopefully in a year, 2 years, we'll just be looking back upon this as, as just another chapter of history that, we managed to make it through. So once again, thank you to all of our panelists for joining tonight. Our next Brand Ambassador and Promotional Industry Update. This will be number 6. Will be on June 17th at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got a couple of guests tentatively lined up right now. We have Gus's, I don't know if partner in crime is the right word to use, but your event partner in crime, Tom Camarda, as well as one of our returning guests, and maybe more. So just to wrap up, thank you again, everyone, for watching tonight. And later on, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, again, my name is Al Schuster. I am the president and owner of Polaris Brand Promotions. And have a wonderful night and stay strong. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.